All right, here we go. I'm Pat.
Hey, I'm Jeffrey.
We're talking about Skylines 2.
Okay, good,
Apparently.
good. Well, you're the one that mentioned it to me.
Yeah, I'm way excited for that game, man. So, have you watched all the Dev Diary trailers and shit?
No.
Oh, they've been dishing out to some of my favorite YouTube guys who've come back alive from Skylines. Um, because they have copies of it now. They're
Oh,
yes.
oh,
They're doing their own little playtesting thing.
they have the game already.
Some of them do, yes, from what I understand. They're not allowed to cut videos on them yet, so
Oh, right.
but they've been playing it. Actually, I think there's one guy that was cutting videos on it. That was just the last couple days.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think, yeah. Uh, no, it'll be good to play a builder again. I've been playing war games all summer, man. Yeah,
I haven't.
yeah.
No, I haven't. I got back on Skylines 1 there for a while.
Did you?
Yeah,
What'd you do different?
I just played the game. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
it's the there's no like approach that I took that was, artistically unique or anything like that, but it was just if I wanted to spend an hour and 15 minutes just fucking around placing trees in a park, I would,
Yeah.
right? If I wanted to move the rocks around or set things and say, like, all right, so in this particular place, it would look like this or like this, or I think the people would like it like this, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is something I never did, right? Because, gods take an aggregate view
Right. Yeah.
of humanity, right? It's
Right. Yeah.
uh,
They're not all killing themselves today. That's
right,
good.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. Generally speaking, I mean, when you look at these ants and you just say, they're inconsequential being,
Right.
right? And you make decisions and you say, I'll flood them, whatever it'll be, right? But more so this time, I just looked at it from like an aesthetic standpoint. I just sort of like looked at the areas and I looked
Hmm.
at places that um, this seems far too uh, just industrial, right? It's just like you look at these areas and say like this is a hellscape. This is
It's Mordor.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. And of course you look at the things you say like, well, the statistics say that they're fine, right? There's unlike any other city of roughly 700,000 people, where there is a fire station every half block,
Right.
and you know things like that when it comes to service. So everything looks safe, but you're like, this does not feel right. This doesn't. So I'm like, all right, I'm
Yeah,
just
I
gonna
got you.
take this approach and say, all right, we're gonna try and make a habitable place after of course building this brutalist architectural nightmare. And then yeah, I'm still working through platinum on Street Fighter 6.
Oh, okay.
um and I'm finding this game much easier to be better at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not because of any kind of uh technical improvement. In fact, my execution is worse than it's ever been. uh and my uh reaction speeds and things like that are in the toilet compared to when I was, I don't know, 20.
Uh,
But I'm finding that I'm kicking way more ass, and I think it has to do with my medication because there's a like I don't get hyped. I don't get like caught up in the action of things. It's just like um cold and clinical and uncaring and just very methodical and checked down. It's like um the fun and excitement of being like fucking enraged at wins and losses is missing. But
yeah.
like I'm knocking down like 20 game win streaks and stuff. I'm like,
It's pretty good, man.
uh it's very strange. It's a different experience.
Yeah. No, I tried to dive into Skylines a little bit, but it was just like I've done this so many times. The new one's coming out. So it's just around the corner.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, it was just like, nah, I really, because like, so the last city that I did, I kind of took your attitude. I was like, I want to make a kid. Where would I want to live? You know, so how would I want the city kind of laid out and stuff. And then so I stopped doing the thing where you fill in like the perfect 8 by 16 square blocks.
That was yeah. That was.
Yeah, where I started actually just tiling like individual like 4 tile houses, then putting fences between them and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, there was definitely stuff like that, and of course, it wasn't where I wanted to live. It was where the people I imagined wanted to live.
right.
These, I gave them, I don't want to say identities. I didn't write down a notebook of, Mr. Galakowitz lives here, and he is so racist. No,
Yeah,
it wasn't things like that. It was just that, you get this sort of like productivity thing in mind where eventually you're like, well, why would I place like low density? That's less people.
right. Yeah,
That's less
exactly.
efficient. I'm
Yeah,
like, well, because not everybody wants to live in.
fucking Hong Kong. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you do that like one time, you make it like a really, you try and you push the needle as far
You max it, yeah.
until your machine
Uh-huh.
breaks.
Yeah.
So because of all the math that's going on, so you know, and then yeah, after you do that like once or twice, you kind of figure out the formula. And it's like, no, I want to make some place that actually looks nice. So I always started with like not having all my roads be perfectly straight and in a grid. So it was kind of like that helped a little bit. And then after that, it was like that's when I started like finding all these guys on YouTube who had good suggestions, actual traffic engineers and shit. And it was like, oh, your system makes way more sense than mine, So, let me try this structured hierarchy of roads here. Actually, that works great. Cool. So now this place looks pretty good. It runs pretty good. So, but it just wasn't pretty, you know. So that's when I
Yeah.
started making it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm planting a fuckload more trees. I'm gonna, space this shit out. I'm gonna think about where's the quickie mart gonna go. Let's zone a bunch of that down here, because you don't want to drive all the way across town to get a fucking gallon of milk. So
Yeah,
even though
fair
I
enough.
have the most
Yeah.
beautiful transit system that will take you
Yeah.
over there now. So, but then yeah, and then the last I did that whole thing where I had different neighborhoods, and this was the Catholic one, and they had a Catholic church. This was a
Oh, okay.
Jewish
Yeah.
neighborhood, and
Yeah.
they had a synagogue and stuff like that. And this is like right a history behind my town and kind of things, just not kind of like not actually, but just in my mind, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so and then yeah, I sat down at it like maybe 2 weeks ago. I was like, yeah, this looks cool, And then I got about 10 minutes into it. I was like, nope, yep, it didn't bite. So I'm that way with a game. So especially if it's one that I played a lot in the past, it's got to bite me pretty quick. So yeah.
Well, it wasn't a question of bite. I mean, it bit me at the right time. And I've always argued that it's a headspace game. If your brain wants to play it, it wants to play it.
Right.
And then for a while, I played it, and then just it was bizarre because at one point I was done, and there was no fanfare. There was no like why. There was no. Are things different? No, I just
blow it all up, you animals.
yeah. I just got to a point, and I was like, okay, well, I'm done for now.
I played a couple games that actually had decent naturally end points, over the, I'd say the last year. So there was kind of like, that's just enough. And then I would sit there and think about it. I was like, do I want to play a little bit more? Nah, I'm good. So
I'm done.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this one. So yeah, because like Skylines, that's one of those ones that can go on forever. I mean, I got in a transport fever. That game was like cocaine. So compared to Skylines. So because it was just trains and shit, and you don't worry about fucking people. It was all transport. It's like you'll take the ferry because that's all I'm going to give you.
See, I don't quite have the. I mean, I do. I mean, depends on the game. There's a coldness in some of those games that I can get into, but other times it's like, all right, well, That's the beauty of it, is that, you know, it accommodates you when you need it in the way that you need it to.
Right.
Versus some games which are very, very rigid in that regard. So, like, if you were go back and play SimCity 1, right?
Oh, that'd be hard.
Well, I mean, there's a joy to it, but there's nothing about it that is not about driving efficiencies.
No,
There's
it's all efficiencies, man.
because in that game where it was just like the single ploppable things, you're like, there's no, like, there's, I don't want to say there's no joy to it in the design. The design, the finding the efficiencies is the game,
Yeah.
right? But in terms of aesthetics, like, what aesthetics?
Oh, they were terrible in that game. So, but I mean, for its time, because that's got to be like 92, something like that.
right around
Yeah,
there, yeah.
Nexus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
In
remember.
fact, I would think it would be the year earlier. I
You
feel like
might
it
be
was
right,
91.
Yeah.
Um,
That was one of the first games that I actually saved up money to buy. So
oh,
back in the day.
All right.
So yeah, because other than that, I would, like, I had a couple other games before that, but they were like Christmas presents, you know. And so, but I remember I played that at John's house. I was like, I went home and I was like, I have to have this game. And so yeah, and so, you know, it was like, all right, what can I do around the house? Because that was before I even had a job. So yeah. And it was still like $30, which was like insanely. Yeah.
in 91?
In 91, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's a fucking down payment on a car.
Right, yeah. That's a car payment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then, you know, as soon as I got it, it was, I spent so much time on that fucking game. And I hated the disasters because they'd fuck all your stuff up.
Yeah.
So, always turn those off. But then, you know, after a little bit, fortunately, like 2 dropped just in the right period of my life where I was like, okay, I'm not touching this game again because they had it beat. So, you know, in fact, I built an entire city with no roads in that thing. It was just trains.
It was just trains.
Just
yeah.
trains. And that was the secret sauce in that game, if you could do that. Without going broke, because you had a while there where you're probably going to go broke if you do that.
Yeah.
So, but once you get past that, you got all the level 5 cylinder buildings. Yeah, and you're good. But then 2 dropped, and I love 2. I thought 2 was much better than 3. And then 4 was the one that I played for years. So,
Was it?
oh yeah, it was the best. So it was the best out of all of them. I played that.
I thought
game
that was
for
the one that
years.
wouldn't run.
No, that was 5. So
It was 5, okay.
that was 5. Yeah, I still got the CD for that one. It would not run. You had to sign up for some bullshit. So yeah. So and then that bullshit, whatever it was, shut down. So you can't run it anymore. I'm sure you probably can find emulators out there, so nowadays. But I mean, that game was like 6-7 years ago. So that was the franchise killer. So that was the one that murdered the franchise. No, SimCity 4 was the best. So
Well, they could bring it back anytime they want to, but
right. Well,
I mean,
that's when Skyline showed up. So
I mean, not to
the
put.
game's been around a while, man.
No, it has. I'm just saying, like, yeah, you can bring it back anytime. You just have to put it. What do you do? What sort of tack do you take on this? Where you're saying, like, all right, here is our current dilemma. Here is our current model when it comes to, you know, making product, right? How do you do something like that at this point that accommodates both what you know, the higher up guys would sit there and bitch about and say, like, we need to generate a continuous revenue stream with this game, but look at the complaints from the last time around, right?
Yeah. Well, they took such a radical departure from SimCity 4 to SimCity 5. Because it was multiple cities. Your cities looked cartoony. And that was the whole thing. You didn't like that. Okay? So, because you wanted to actually look like a fucking city. And so, you know, SimCity 4 had fantastic graphics for its day. And so, you know, it really did. You could only zoom down so far, which was great. You know, it's not like Skylines where you can get down, like, you know, look at the little dudes on the map.
Yeah, you can
you know?
specifically get into their thoughts. Yes.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, no, it's not like that, which is fine. I don't need to. You know, I kind of like that 3/4 view anyway, you know, that SimCity always did pretty well after the first one. And so, they changed it as cartoony. So, it's like city with a cluster of buildings and like 5 houses around it. It's like that's not a fucking city. And so, I mean, it's like civilization cities, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind
Yeah.
of weird. So just go back to the last one and just update the whole thing. Put the most badass graphics in it you can. So, because quite honestly, the only thing that I would take from Skylines is like all their transit tools and stuff are great. So, I mean, the thing is just traffic simulator. That's all it really is. So, that's how your buildings grow. That's how you generate revenue. That's whether or not people die. There's all kinds of shit. That's all just linked back to traffic. So if you rip that out and then take the economy that you had in SimCity and put that into Skylines, that's fucking perfect. So because Skylines, my criticism for it, I don't know, did you ever get the Industries DLC?
No.
That breaks the fucking game.
That's what you said.
Yeah, yeah. You turn your city into a socialist utopia. And you build these monstrous like fucking factories that just haul in so much money that you just it's like okay, there's no taxes. In fact, can we set property taxes to negative values?
Pay you.
Yeah,
We're doing
we'll
the
pay
Alaska
you to live
thing.
here.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of thing, because we make so much fucking money now. It's so busted. But like the thing is, it's like better than zoning like half or a quarter of your map in that yellow industrial mortar wasteland. So which would happen in SimCity 4, where you'd have the heavy industry area, and yeah, it's like these ginormous factories all butted against each other, and it's just like pollution cloud you can see from Mars.
Well, and I did find something out about the zoning in that game where you weren't supposed to build just like uh big clusters
No.
of industrial
Yeah.
space. It's supposed to actually be kind of like small and reserved and sort of just like small pockets throughout the area
Yeah.
with solid transit between them. And eventually I figured that out. I'm like, well, this actually makes way more sense.
Yeah.
um, Rather than just writing off a certain area of town and say like, look, you saw the sign when you drove in. Like you, it's not a question of if, but when you get cancer,
Right,
and
yeah, that's
they ain't no coming back from it either. There's no. It's like, oh, you work here. It's like, all right, well, you know. Your sacrifice will make the green areas of town so green and
They'll
so
be so
pleasant.
nice, yeah.
You will make it so people are healthily living into their hundreds. But you will die at 36
Yeah.
from
Black lung disease.
yeah, as you hang out in that park that's in that area with all those dead trees and
Right,
shit.
the sticks that come
Yeah.
up for the whole
Yeah.
thing around. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, man. Yeah, so I don't know. I got a little bit better at that after a while, but like I said, industries just broke it all. So, because then you'd have like an enormous factory that was making cars that employed like fucking 15,000 people.
Well,
So, then you'd set up all the supply chains. So you own the forest that they cut the trees. You own the sawmills where they plane the wood. They send the wood to the furniture factory where you own that, and so you sell the furniture. Um, which also takes like stuff from your farms because it needs leather. So you make cows. So you own that. You own the dairy that feeds. It's just dumb. So it was like this is so utopistic. So that this is just
oh,
somebody's
right.
fucking designer's wet dream of like what world should be like, man. It's like, well, all the business guys will make all the money and the rest of us will drink tea and read Marx in a parking lot, so
Well, and of course that also implies that if you look at the problems that we had, say around, I don't know, the year 2020, and you say like, no, because in that same regard, it's also a libertarian's wet dream, because you're also like, we need to focus on being more self-sufficient. And you talk about how supply chains fell apart, and you're like, we can't rely on Malaysia and China,
yeah.
for all these things. So you say like, all right, well, if I can, so we build the ball bearings here,
right, yeah.
at the ball bearing factory, and we're going to ship them directly to, the manufacturing side, and you're like, oh no, we're completely self-sufficient. And then you look at it and you say, why hasn't this worked anywhere?
Ever. See, that was a cool thing about SimCity. That they did pull into Skylines eventually was those outside connections.
Yeah, that
So
is
that
true.
was a good
Yeah.
idea. Yeah, where you could actually have that set up. But SimCity did a really good job of that because you didn't have to micro it. So, but like it wasn't modeling individual types of goods and shit. So, but it was just like, oh, there's freight trains running all over the place. That means my shit's working. So, yeah,
Right.
So, I don't know, man. It looks like in Skylines too, they're taking a lot of the stuff from SimCity 4 and putting it in there. Just as long as they got to pay you to bulldoze your house, man, that'll change the game.
I'm telling you,
I know.
I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that. I don't know how to take that yet.
Yeah.
Um,
See, the cool thing in SimCity 3 though was, or 4, was that you had to plan. Because if this was going to be a nice spot, it's going to be your downtown central business district, all right, and you wanted to have an L run through it.
mm-hmm.
You had to plan for that shit because otherwise that building you wanted to bulldoze was going to bankrupt your city. So in order for you to bulldoze it for a one little square tile. So because it was like high value, super duper real, especially if it was residential.
Yeah.
It was crazy how much that would cost you. So to bulldoze those things.
Yeah, the problem I had with this though is the advantage that Skylines gave me with this was, all right, so yes, you could plan for something and that's fine, and you'd
Yeah.
say like I'd leave this here and do this, but there were just plenty of times when you try something out, you're like that did not. As a matter of
work,
fact, this made things way worse, right? So there's this thing where it was like, all right, well, the game doesn't want me to sit there and have 5 million save states and go back to each thing
yeah.
and go back to this. It's like, all right, no, you made a mistake. I want to encourage you to experiment with this.
That's okay. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that because I did save scum a lot in SimCity 4.
All the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, I totally understand that. And look, it's not as though, especially from that era, that I was entirely that was foreign to me. It's like you'd play a whole ton of these games where it's like, well, I'm gonna save here, then I'm gonna try this dialogue option with this Nazi, and he's gonna shoot me, so I'm gonna go back on this.
Right.
So, like,
where do I get a big enough beer can for this guy?
this is what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I mean, it's not as though that was something that I was unaccustomed to. In fact, it was just the way of the game, right? But I feel like in the past 10 years, they've done everything they can to try and get you past that and say, like, no, I mean, we want decisions to have permanence, but we also don't want them to. That's something that's old
Right.
school archaic gameplay. It's something that distinctly detaches you because you're like, we want you to feel like it's weird. They always assign you this title of like mayor. Like, it's not. I'm not a mayor. I'm a god
I'm a
emperor.
god.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
and like,
god
what are you
emperor.
talking about?
The God Emperor of Dune, man.
Yeah, it's like, what are you talking about? It says I live at least 100 years.
Right.
Well,
yeah,
no.
thousands.
Forgive me. That is to say that I took the emperor's throne at the age of 0, and have been making these decisions. But yeah, so let's presume that my quote unquote benevolent rule begins at age 26. I'm gonna live at least 100 years.
That's right. You could get voted out of office in some cities.
Right. See that
Yeah,
I
you're
kind of
right.
like
I
because
did like that.
yeah, there's a piece of that I can enjoy. You mentioned it before that there's the thing that you miss about SimCity is like the character.
It had a lot of character.
And there's something about that I would really enjoy, but I'd also like a switch to be able to say like, no, like I can't do it. It's the same thing where I'm like, I don't want my Sims to age or whatever, that kind of thing. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, so I could definitely get on board with that in terms of fun. I guess what I'm saying here is like the goofiness of CK2 would be something that
that'd
I
be
would
fun.
love
Yeah.
to see in.
Yeah, where you have to deal with like different people on city council and shit. That'd be hilarious.
Right, or if there were like if the game actually had like, I don't want to say political, but things along those lines that caused problems, things
Yeah.
that would
That would definitely make the game a little bit more interesting, you know. I mean, I can see how that would like really grate on a lot of people who play
Of
it.
course.
But if you could just turn that
You have a
off,
toggle with
yeah,
that.
you have
That's
a
fine.
toggle with
Same
that,
thing they did with disasters, right? It's just
right?
like you turn that
Yeah.
fuck off, you know.
So yeah, otherwise you have parts of town that are like fucking almost rioting because they're all Republicans over there and you don't give a shit about them, you know, kind of thing. And then but eventually they toss you out of office, and I don't know. Yeah, so I've seen a couple political simulators over the world over the years. Most of them are really stupid. So, which is too bad because I think it would be kind of fun.
They're reductionist. They're
There's
extremely
yep,
reductionist.
definitely
and
reductionist.
Insultingly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw this one series. This guy was playing this game where you're basically the president of the United States, and you have to pick your cabinet and stuff like that. And they're treating it like these people like. They add stats to your stats. And
Exactly.
Like, that's fucking stupid. That's not
like,
how that
like,
works, man.
You're going to like the Department of the Interior and like, all right, well, he bats 280,
Right.
but
Yeah, you're looking at it like Moneyball. Yeah. Yeah. But his OBP. His OBP is great. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, it's so stupid.
Right.
And I get it. Look, there is a if you break it down to it, you could say that that's a component you're talking about.
Right.
I mean, this is your staff. But it's not that kind of metric. It's not that kind of like
No.
measurable thing. It's
CK2 is the best political simulator I've ever played. So, hands down, man.
because of the absurdity.
Just because of the
Yeah.
craziness. And I
Yeah,
mean, that game
yeah.
really came. I mean, you can buy some of the other packages there. You can have like vampires and shit in your stuff, just like The Sims.
Yes.
So yeah, it was like, okay, that's maybe a little bit too far. So, but I'll never forget when my prime minister went mad, or not my. He was my. What was it? It's not my spy master. Who's the other guy?
Oh, the not the
Was it a chancellor? This was. What guys did you have? You had a spy master. You had
Okay.
like a
Well-
foreign minister.
Well, let's talk about what they did. Okay, so yeah, you had. Are you talking about your guy that basically dug up the Cassius bellies?
Yeah.
Uh,
What was that guy? I think he was your
I
chancellor.
want to say
Yeah.
chancellor, but
Yeah.
I don't. I feel like I have an equal chance of being wrong, and I'm willing to accept that. But I think you're right because you have that. You have your spy master. You have your. You had 5 guys, right?
Yeah, you did. Didn't you have like a commerce guy?
Well,
Like a
who was the
quartermaster
person
or
that
something?
would like train the troops?
Oh, you had a military guy. That was that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think you had a religious dude.
Oh yeah, that's
you
right.
did. Yeah, you had a religious dude.
you did.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I can't remember exactly what the sequence of events was, but my guy was going slowly insane. So to the point in time where everybody was barking at me. So yeah, and it was like that's a nice touch, guys.
That's genius.
That's a really nice touch.
That's super fun.
Yeah.
And again, look, I do know, of course, that there are people out there who would say that this bullshit, this totally ruined it, blah blah blah. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
well, I get it. My whole problem here is like, but don't you have plenty of games that let you do that exactly?
Yeah.
Can't you let this one be okay?
Yeah. There's like so many things that yeah. It's like why can't I control fucking everything exactly how I want to? That's why this game sucks. And it's like no, that's why you suck. You know?
Or it's like,
and I don't want to play with you.
yeah, it's like,
anymore.
or you suck at this game,
Yeah.
and that's fine, right? That's fine. Because it's like, yeah, it's the some of it's random, some of it's not, some of it's that's the beauty of it.
Right.
And yeah, again, if that pisses you off, it's like, look, man, I get it, but here's 100 other games for you to play
Right.
that are just like you
Yeah.
want.
Just exactly
Right.
what you want. Yeah.
This one's a little bit different, and you
Yeah.
may not like that,
No.
and that's okay.
I can't play those ones where you have to micro everything anymore. So I mean I played some pretty heavy duty like Hex Encounter war games.
Yeah,
over the
way more
years.
than me.
Oh
yeah.
man, I
Yeah.
can't do them anymore. I played one a little bit this last spring. They downloaded for like $2. So, but it's like
Huh.
this classic one that I was like, oh, you know what? I kind of do want to try this. And then it was sitting there getting into every little detail down to like the fucking battalion level with supply chains and train schedules and all. I was like, nah, I don't, no.
No, yeah, because
Yeah,
you're
I
like,
can't
I'm
do
playing
this.
Lords of the Realm 1 again. I'm
Right,
like,
yeah.
I don't want to do
I
this.
don't want to do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good. So, yeah, I tried to play some of the RTSs too. I just can't do it, man. So, there's some I've lost any kind of ability to be able to do those games. So, I just can't think that many moves ahead that quickly anymore. So, I don't know, maybe I never really could. I just got lucky. So, sometimes like, you get like I'd always get stuck in a strategy when I played those games. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, but I wouldn't change the strategy. So, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I guess. I mean, I had fun with it. But also, understand that I was well aware of my limitations. I'm like, I'm not gonna uh I don't I don't bounce between areas of the map that quickly. I can't.
No, I can't.
Right? I
Yeah.
can't. I can sort of like keep track of like three groups, right? Loosely,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's not something where I can bounce between these things.
That's
and,
hard.
click this and assign these groups, and then when you get down to the individual groups, it's like, well, I can tell all the guys to attack.
Yeah.
Like that's
easy. Yeah.
that's pretty much the limit of this. Or I can move these guys and tell these guys to do this. Or if I'm getting really complex, I can keep like more vulnerable units in the back.
Right.
But when they figure that and say like, well, we're just going to target those things, I'm like, well, I'm done.
Yeah, you got me.
You got me.
Yeah, you
It's like
got
I
me.
understand what to do. I don't have the processing power to go ahead and handle all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, maybe that's lack of practice. I mean, this is the other thing is like I played these games.
Sure.
I had fun with them, but as a matter of fact, I still have fun with them. But I'm going to say like I never put the time in that a lot of other people did.
Oh no.
So I'm not going to hold it against myself. It's like, you know,
Well, people put in like years into Warcraft 3.
yeah.
Yeah, no. That was the game that kind of broke me on that one because then you had to do all the hero management too. I was just like, okay, there's too many things going on here, man. And so, and then I think my brother got into Dota for a bit. I can't, like,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh.
I was like, no, man, like,
Hey, man,
my fingers don't work like that.
I get it. I get what people like about it.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
yeah,
Right. It's kind of like it's like movies. It's like I sit there and say like I like these kind of movies, and you would say like, yeah, but it's gross when all of his skin is peeling off, and I don't like it.
yeah, I
I'm
don't like that. Yeah,
It's like that's not for me. I'm like, no, you're wrong.
Right? It's the best part of the
You
movie.
should like it.
Yeah.
You're stupid if you don't.
Yeah. Oh, but man, you get that attitude from a lot of people. So, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. People.
Not as much as you used to. I don't know, man. It depends on the forum too. Yeah, yeah.
And it depends on your attitude, man. It's like, so if I were to, and I've done this before, and I've done this, just to piss people off, and you know that. But like when it comes down to it, like, it's the same thing, like with certain like bits of music, right? It's not for me to decide what actually moves you. I can say that, and I'm not going to sit there in terms of and say like point out a certain song and I say you should like this. Based on it's like the stupid like Netflix model. It's like based on your crappy taste, you should like this.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but I don't. You don't understand what I like about this, versus this. They say like, yeah, but don't you understand how complex it is? It's like, fucking A, I understand how complex it is. It just doesn't click with me. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
why? That's a defect with you. It's like, the fuck it is.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. We're talking about matters of taste here, buddy. Yeah.
I mean, I can point out, like, if somebody points out certain flaws and says, like, this is a real problem, I say, like, it's funny you say that, but they did address that, right? And you can either accept that criticism, or you can say, like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. But I can't turn around, like, I can look at William, and I can look at his shitty taste in movies, as much as I love the guy, there are times where I'm like, what the fuck do you like about this? And again, that's not a blow against him. It's just like he has a completely different set of desires from his media. You know, it's like, so did you get what you want out of it? It's like, yeah, then mission accomplished. It's
Yeah,
like,
you're
but
fine.
I can question his motives and say like, if you don't like it, why are you watching it? What, like,
Yeah.
for God's sake, why are you watching this out of obligation? That part I can criticize and say, they haven't earned your,
Mm-mm.
they don't deserve your viewership.
No. That being said, I might go see that Oppenheimer movie. So,
I probably will.
yeah. So, I haven't read any reviews on it. I know how it goes. So,
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
pretty much. I mean, it's probably not going to be that different than the one maybe back when was it in the 90s with John Cusack. Wasn't it Paul Newman?
I
Was
don't
it
know.
James
I
Caan?
didn't see it.
Yeah, it was the one about making the bomb. So,
Oh, Manhattan Project or
yeah. I don't know if the movie. I
oh
don't think the
Jesus,
movie
that's
was.
even
I think it was
older.
Fat
Yeah.
Man and Little Boy. Yeah,
Oh,
that's what it
okay.
was. Yeah, Fat Man and Little Boy. So I know how that's gonna go, but I just have this sinking feeling that they're gonna turn into this diatribe about dropping the bomb, and like all the dangers of nuclear weapons, and blah blah blah, kind of thing. And I just don't really feel like a lecture. I really don't.
Well,
So I'm a little bit apprehensive about that, but I've stayed away from reviews, so I don't know if that's actually in there.
my understanding is that it's not about moralizing on that because again, I would have no time for that. It's more to me, from what I understand, it's more about one person's experience with
Okay,
being part of something like this, and that I can understand,
that'd be
right?
that'd be a good perspective.
Right?
Yeah.
That I can understand. That's interesting, right? I don't need the movie to stop and say, I mean, the worst thing that a movie could do is let's pause. Now we're going to show you statistics.
Yeah.
You know,
It turns into a slide deck. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. There are movies that actually will stop and they'll say like, to date, 315,000 people have been killed in Darfur or whatever. It's
Oh yeah.
oh fuck you. It's like I get it. I get it. And again, it's not. This is the problem. I was thinking about this the other day. Was like, to what end am I willing to accept someone's political crap within a story? Right. I was thinking about it. I was trying to be fair about this. What with the writer strike and everything right now, and and how I was. Why does my gut say I hope you all get fired? I hope they flush every last one of you,
I kind of feel the same way, dude.
and
So,
say we're just gonna start fresh, right? There was part of that I'm like, why? And that was where it all came out, where this crop of fucking idiots right now is concerned, where they feel like their message is the story, and it has never been.
yeah. No, there's definitely. I mean, I don't know, man. So I did see something a little while ago, and I don't know how much I buy into this conspiracy theory, if that's
Lay it on
what
me.
it is. But it's more so along the lines that like certain ranks of people have gotten themselves into the industry in one way or another, and they could give a shit less whether or not something actually makes money. But it's more so like getting my message out there, and so. But then there's money men behind them who are like, all right, well, it's still make money. That's what we're interested in. So, whatever, do whatever you want, kind of thing. And now maybe that's not really working out, but I think it's just like most of the movies that you see come out do have some kind of political undertones. They've been that way for a long time. So, I mean, you can go back to like, I mean, even the whole like the superhero era. I mean, I'm thinking of the old one, like the Arnold and fucking Rambo days
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. All the movies had a little bit of that under there. Now sometimes it was a little tongue in cheek, Sometimes it was in your face, like in Rambo. So, you know,
Which Rambo?
the first one. Yeah. So the other ones were a little bit more patriotic. So,
Well,
yeah.
it's weird because, all right, so if you look at the first Rambo, right, yeah, there is a social message about this here, but the thing is, there's no one finger being pointed at
No.
anybody where they don't. The absolutely bizarre thing about Rambo, and this is I'm going to point this out to you. You've seen the movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I like Brian Dennehy in that movie just as much as fucking Stallone. So Brian Dennehy's great in that movie.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Like you are a horrible person, but I get it.
But I kind of like you. Yeah.
And I understand.
And they shot one of your guys. So yeah.
They shot one of your guys,
Yeah.
and you do, like, when it comes down to it, he's like, we live here.
You don't.
I know what you're about.
Right, yeah.
Now, would things have turned out differently? Of course, right? But there's this weird thing to it where in that movie, right, and this is, I didn't read the book, so I don't know, right? It's the appearance of Colonel Troutman that really muddies the whole waters.
It does. Yeah.
Right? Because I don't come in here, I don't look at this guy as this face of this military like he's the bad guy. I'm like, no, he's actually looking out for his guy.
Yeah, he's trying to walk. Well, he's trying to, and that's why he tells him, he's like, walk away, we'll pick him up in Seattle in 2 weeks. You know, so, but Brian Denny's like, he killed one of my guys, I can't do that. So, yeah, no, I mean, but the political undertones in that movie, they're not in your face, but they're still there. And I think that's because, you know, audiences back then, they wouldn't tolerate shit like that. So, you know, and plus, you were going for big market appeal anyway during the summers. So, with that, well, maybe not with Rambo.
Not with Rambo 1, but with Rambo 3, that
well, fuck yeah.
that ends with, this one goes out to the brave fighters, the Mujahideen.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, I do.
I'm like,
that,
okay,
yeah.
well, it's funny because I'm like, well, this is more on the nose, but it doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel bad. Fucking commies. So, yeah.
Well, you just said the two words that if I were to get a tattoo, yeah, that would be
Fucking commies.
Yeah. would be there. Yeah, it's weird because in many ways that's way more political, and again, like that's the beauty of Rambo is like, look, we've put these out here for you to think about, but we didn't tell you what to think.
Well,
right?
and I mean the whole Arnold era was kind of like that. It's tongue in cheek. It's like, so you like violence. You really like, here, let's give you a lot of really dumb violence.
It's,
you know,
it's,
and it,
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean to the point in time where they actually make a movie called Last Action Heroes. So.
See, that movie's weird. All right, I don't. There's this sort of revisionist look on this now, where it's like, was this movie smarter than we were giving it credit for? Like, did we not like it because it was making fun of us in some ways? I'm like, I don't know.
It's not that good a
like,
movie. Yeah. So, I mean, True Lies was making better fun of us than that movie was.
And I think it does it in such a clunky way. Clunky. I'm not saying I hate the movie.
It's
like,
fun to watch. Even though it's got Tom Arnold as
see
fattest
again,
in it.
you know, that's you're just asking for things that would make you say, I don't want to watch this. But there's enough of it there to work.
It's got 72 hours in it too, man.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying all the things that I don't like. Fucking, like, again, this is. You tell me what to think about this, right? So that scene in Terminator 2 when. You probably know which one I'm going to bring up. Is when they're, you know, on that like dirt farm and we're not going to make it, are we? I'm like,
no fate.
There's part of me that's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what version of this do you mean? Like, and it was just enough for me to like roll my eyes, but not say I'm done.
Right. Well, it's not near as bad as the messages you get in the next one. So,
No.
so war is inevitable, and we're gonna build fucking flying machines in the middle of Cheyenne Mountain. So, and these giant robots that, you know, I don't know. Do they get coffee when they're not like trying to machine gun somebody? I don't know.
So
So it was so on the nose, man.
perfectly
It was
fair
just
question.
awful. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's somewhere there's like a period where it started to transition probably in the late '90s up till probably the early 2010s. Where you still had good writers out there, kind of like. And I can't name any of them, man. So, but you had directors who were in charge of shit who'd been around a while, so they knew how to like time and pace a movie. And every now and then they'd have like this vanity project that was coloring way outside the lines, but they knew that right up front. It was totally fine, So that's why you get to do it black and white, or something like that. Yeah,
Sure.
But I mean, everybody still kind of played by the same rules, and then yeah, I'd say after the Trayvon thing, man, and I don't know if those two things are related, but it's just like all the movies are bad, so they're not fun. There's like a lot of people got out of the business or just went to the executive producer thing. It's just rubber stamp scripts now, and I just haven't enjoyed it so near as much. I mean, I even go back and so the other day the fucking the episodes 1, 2, and 3 were on, and this is the only Star Wars thing I'll say today.
Fine. It's relevant to the discussion.
Yeah, 2 is unwatchable. Okay?
Yeah.
It is absolutely unwatchable, but it has nothing to do with what's being said in the movie. It's everything how it's presented. That's a directorial problem. That's not a writing problem.
Yes.
Okay? So there are so many other movies these days that look stunning, but they are unwatchable. And it's because of the other side of it has completely left the building, man. And so, it's like, get this shit out of my face, all right? So I'm tired of listening. Okay, the Andor pause is kicking in again. So, but it's just it. Like I've been watching the last week, like whole sections of the internet, some of whom I respect very much, so getting torn to pieces over the fucking Barbie movie. So, and it's just like, I don't think you could pay me to go see that movie.
Well, all right. So you're at a weird intersection with me on this one. So number one, I'm like, look, there's no version of this where I would be the target audience for this in the first place.
Right.
Number two, when you break down the actual plot and what happens, like, I would be insulted. I'm like,
yeah.
You guys can go fuck yourself.
I didn't even know anything was going on until I started seeing all this shit online about Ken Energy, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" So
fucking ridiculous.
I know, man, and it's like you guys totally did this on purpose, man.
Of course.
So yeah, totally did this on purpose.
Of course. It all stems from that same. It's kind of like what I was talking to you about, because I mean, the whole premise of the fact that the movie actually goes to the point where it's like, we're going to keep this a grossly not misogynist, but misandrist, culture, because in the real world, this is how it is. I'm like, the fuck it is. I'm like,
yeah, I know.
Get the fuck out of here with this bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is your statement. This is like, again, I've heard this described as like the writing in this is like fucking middle-aged woman therapy session for things that didn't fucking ever happen. I'm like, it's like, this is not the world that you think it is. This is not the world that you grew up in. This is not even the world that your mother grew up in.
No.
This is a play pretend world, again, where you and your fucking idiotic friends on this particular piece of shit, on this particular part of the planet near this body of water, think that you could find Nazis in every mailbox.
Yeah.
And like, this fictionalized version, and this is the thing, is like, all right, the problem I have with this is this like incestuous butt fucking that they've had going on here. I'm sorry, man. Like, when it comes to,
We're gonna do that as an episode title, but
if the shoe fits,
if the shoe fits,
yeah, if and this is the thing, is like the incestuous butt fucking in that industry, in terms of nobody ever like stopping and saying like, what are you, stupid? It's like why would you write this? I'm like, this has no basis in reality. This is, and this is what I'm talking about, is the the quote there from those people that got their bell rung with rings of power, right? The quote that they said,
Oh
like,
yeah,
well, this doesn't match with what we've been hearing internally. It's like, no shit.
yeah.
Nobody here tells you no.
No, yeah,
Like, what are you talking about? Of course they're not going
yeah.
to
Of
say,
course they're
like,
not.
this is a fucking disgrace to the entire lore.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell you that on the inside.
No, they don't want to be. They don't want to get kicked out. So
No.
yeah, no.
No. And that's where you are right now, is you have a whole lot of people that have the same think. You know, the thing that they say here is uh, diversity of not diversity of thought, but diversity of people. It's like, well, that's fantastic. No, it's like you need to have basically like a Hemingway on staff. You need to have
Yeah, you need to have that guy who smokes cigars and in the office, and yeah, you know.
I mean, this one other thing I heard a guy say, right? He was talking about this. Look, I've worked at this network for 10 years. It's like, I've done hit shows. It's like, I've pitched over 10 things. They haven't taken one of them. He's like, but when I do, the notes always come back the same. It's like, it's never creative. It always has to do with, but what if this were a woman? What could we make
Right,
and it's like, those are the only notes I've ever gotten back on this. Like, they never criticize the idea, right? It's just, and that's one of the big problems here is like, there's this look, it's like, oh, you're going like anti-woke. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that there are a big representation of people across there. And again, this is where you could look at, you can argue that the old, television ways, movie ways, you could argue that they played it too safe. You could argue that
Yeah, that's possible.
their notes
Yeah.
would be like, well, we don't want to piss off these people.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, you're going too far.
Well, that's where it's back when political correctness was just a bad word. So, I mean, but still at the same point in time, it was synonymous with just being polite,
Yes.
being considerate. And now it's that, I mean, PC isn't even really a thing.
No.
So it's morphed into something much bigger.
No,
So-
it's turned into this, deference of power, and it's like, what are you doing? It's like, and this is where it comes across as like pandering and insulting. Like,
Well, it is. It's infantilizing. So, and it's one of those things that just, I mean, it's gotten to the point in time, if I detect it in my news, I don't read it. If I detect it in my TV, I don't watch it. If I detect it on my YouTube, I turn it off. So, I've had enough of it. It's one of those things where it's, you're not telling me anything I don't already know, or you haven't told me 100 times already. We're not getting the hint. We're not getting the message. Apparently, so you're just going to scream it louder? That's a great strategy. And so, I don't know. That being said, I did see like some of the set stills for the Moana movie. So the other day, it doesn't look bad. It was just pictures, so I don't know. But
who knows?
who knows? Who knows?
There's only so much I can tell from pictures. I'm like, all right, well, this looks fine.
Oh, I'm sure
Now
they'll
I have
jack
to
up the
wait
whole
for you
story.
to say
Yeah.
something.
So yeah. So they'll make Moana just as strong as Maui or something. They'll jack it up. So
There's a piece of it. It's like, did you guys forget how to have fun? I'm like, is this?
there's not a lot of fun going on. So yeah, everything lately has been kind of serious and kind of, yeah, overtly political, or it's there's a lot of forced errors. Yeah, there's a lot of forced errors.
Yeah.
So, butt fumbles.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the tricky thing, and yes, I understand that every generation. Sorry, I know that very word, just it's like petting a cat the wrong way.
Oh, it's okay.
I understand that every one of us, goes through certain phases where we look at what's coming next and we make judgments and we say,
Right.
like, all right, this is not how it once was. The difference here, and look, I'm trying to put things in clear perspective in terms of looking at things over years gone by. And what I can tell you is I can say that I have liked movies from every generation. I have liked movies from every era of film. And that's not to say that certain films can identify or basically be the complete marker of a certain era, but I can say that there are certain trends, and I'm like, yeah, I like these things from the 60s, I like these things from the 70s, I like these things from the 80s, I like these things from the 90s, etc., right? And even the years before, I can look at the silent film era and say, like, my God, there's a craft here, right?
Oh yeah, you just watch a couple Buster Keaton films. It's crazy.
Jesus Christ,
This guy's
I'm
a
like,
madman.
yeah, it's not even just a matter of like what he's willing to do, but capable of doing. But the fact that you're able to capture this in a way that's interesting and not just like, well, why don't we just put him in the front of the center and just because if that were the case, you just put him on there and just have him do tricks, right?
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely.
you weave it into the narrative, it all works. And that's the thing is the section right now. I can tell you, I have found plenty of good hidden gems within the recent generation, but that's exactly it. They're hidden
Yeah,
gems.
they're hidden
They're
gems.
small. Nothing really works to the mainstream. Like um I can point at movies like we talked about. You watched Joker the other day, right? It's a 70s movie.
It is.
It absolutely is, right?
Yeah, it's Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it works. It works
does.
in that regard, right? Because it's evocative of that particular era, right? And it's because it has those pieces to it, right? But when I look overall at basically like what the big hits were of, the I don't know, I'm gonna say 2016 moving forward. I don't know why I'm picking that year. I don't know if that's when everybody lost their fucking minds when it came to politics, and every jackass decided that they write resist in their Twitter bio. Like it's like, dude, it's just a vote.
You mean the app formerly known as Twitter?
Right. Well, they're then bios, yes. Where they talk about how they have to resist. I'm like, resist what? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But this is when, if I were to say this, when people lost their minds and said that they had to double down on this. There's not a whole lot of mainstream stuff that I can say. You executed what you were doing with class and grace.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to find examples of that. I mean, there's probably, like you said, there's a few hidden gems in there, but that's about it.
There absolutely have been.
Yeah, but that's true of like all genres too. That's not just music. It's just not movies. It's music. It's, I mean, like even writing, journalism. There's a few gems in there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, you really got to look for them to find them. So.
And this why I joke about this. Like when people look on things, like when I sit there and say like, if like, can you describe 70s movies for me? It's like up close greasy beards.
Yes.
Right. I can
lots
say
of hair.
It's like I can tell you like something comes to mind.
Yeah,
and
Serpico. Nailed it.
And you say like, how would you describe like the 26? How would you describe like the mid 20s? I'm like, there's something to it. You'll know it.
Yeah.
You won't look at it fondly. You're gonna say, "Oh, this was this kind of movie.
This was this was this era." Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so there's like a level of snark that exists in them. So that just it's so overt anymore. That yeah, I'd say that's what kind of colors them more so than anything else. So it's moral fortitude. So in a way that is oppressive. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So the one-liner, quick, witted, snappy comeback from. I'm not even gonna go with male and female. I'm gonna just go younger and older. So I mean, because you see it in both sides. So we got that starting to roll. I'm gonna push it back to 2012. Just because that's when the whole speaking back to people in authority as being stupid and incompetent and never necessarily taking into consideration the new guy at the table with his great ideas or gal, whatever, kind of started. You see that when it starts like about midway through a lot of the Transformers movies. So yeah,
Kind of, yeah. Something. Not that I want to hang that on.
I'm not going to hang that on there, but
but they're a follower, not a.
they're swimming
Right.
in the same pond. And so, you know, they might do it a little bit more gently than others, but you know, just that whole the extreme ageism that's starting to take hold in the actually, you know what? It probably goes back to Mockingjay in some respects too. So, you know, so Young Upstart Girl and everything, you know, it's a fine movie and things like that. But
In Hunger Games.
in Hunger Games, but then you see how eventually that one pans out down the road, you know, and now all these other, you know, kind of like, well, you got the old white guy, you know,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So who's obviously the center of all evil. He is the octopus brain. So
Well,
yeah.
okay. Well, you run into two problems this year, right? Because yeah, you're absolutely right. The first is, yeah, this sort of all stems from this thing that they started saying, I don't know, about 2015, 2012, you know, around that area, where this little phrase "okay boomer" was
Oh, that I thought that was more recent than that.
it goes back farther.
Does
than
it?
that.
Oh, it must have been banished to parts of the internet I'm not allowed.
Well, okay, and this is the thing. Like, again, I have no problem with this just in general, but the expansion of this term and basically this grapple onto this group, right? Where eventually it just sort of expanded to this catch-all term of basically like picking on anyone essentially over the age of 20.
Yeah.
Just sort of like
Anybody who actually has bills.
pretty much. And that was the you have a two-part set with this. Like, is you're picking on basically anybody that is older than you. I'm like, all right, so they don't have any fresh ideas. Okay, got it. They're the root of all the existing problems.
Right.
And then you have that mixed with the the super diversity thing. It's like, well, we have to have a villain at this. Like, well, is it going to be an old black woman? It's like, no, we'll get roasted.
Yeah, well, they would.
It's like, well, who can we pick on?
Yeah.
It's like
Donald Sutherland.
Donald Sutherland. It's
Yeah.
like,
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey. You notice there are certain dudes who are villains all the time, and they're all old and white, and that kind of thing.
Well, in his case, very gay, but whatever.
Well,
That's almost as bad.
Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
as bad now.
Yeah. And that's the weird thing. I'm not sitting there saying like, oh my god, you know, they're hunting white people for sport. I'm like, no. But the thing is, this whole concept of like your utter hang up on this has made things so predictable in terms of what you're churning out.
It's all autofill, man.
And I cannot take any more movies where you constantly, this is the other part of it, is like, I'm going to watch a movie. You're going to try to give me something serious, but what you're going to do is you're going to keep undercutting it with these one-liners that don't land because you don't know how to let an actual emotional beat sink in.
Right, yeah.
Like,
there's no patience. So,
like
yeah.
this works sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the, like, they joke about it, like they call this the Marvel formula. I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And yes, everybody's glommed onto it.
Yeah.
Right?
I've heard of that.
But that is dog shit, storytelling. It's dog shit pacing. I'm like, guys, I understand that you have to have some levity to break the tension. I get that. But this whole thing where it's like, all right, I can't ever take a serious moment seriously, right? Because every time things start to get a little bit heavy, you're going to undercut it with this dumbass joke.
Yeah, with the silly joke. Yeah, that's been around a good decade now. So,
it's got to go.
Yeah.
It's that era. That's
it
what
will
I'm
be the
saying.
defining feature of the era. So yeah, the poorly timed joke. So I don't know though, man. I think it's gonna change. So this whole WGA thing. I mean, I've been trying to keep up on it a little bit. It's impossible to get any good news on it because even sources that I've been using for the last couple of years that were presumptively fairly unbiased, all of a sudden rub elbows with some dudes in that industry and suddenly become their biggest.
I got friends.
Yeah, I got friends. And it's like, all right, well, I'm unsubscribed from you guys. So bye.
I got friends in that industry.
I got friends in my industry. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I see all these people trying to paint it in these working class colors. It just pisses me off. Yeah. It's like, fuck you. Get off that. So, you know,
I miss it, dude.
they
This
all
is
make,
not.
oh, well, most of them only make like minimum wage. It's like, get a better job. Well, nobody's telling you have to work in this industry. Go get a better job. So, you know, off you go. So this is the cold hard businessman, Pat. You know, in this case, it's like, yeah, I'll pay $100 million to fucking buy some AI that'll write out some great shit. We'll ride that for 4 or 5 years while you guys all starve, beg outside Arby's. You know?
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. So there's the begging outside Arby's. It's like go back to the coffee shops you belong in, but like it's like I don't know how we let you guys escape. We need to check the locks a little bit better, but
Right.
and we need to lock them from the outside. But yeah, there's this other component to this where um that whole thing where you're asking again, it's the whole thing where it's the same goddamn shit they were picking on the air conditioning guys for, where it was like well, what we want the residuals from basically like when 1980s was happening, and Les Wien and these guys were writing Cheers, and they were getting these kind of residuals. We want that. I'm like, doesn't work
It
that way
doesn't work
anymore.
that way anymore,
The
man.
job changed.
Yeah, sorry, you don't have 5 million people sitting down watching your shit after the nightly news.
No.
So yeah,
5 million?
yeah, right.
You ever seen the demos on old or the numbers on old?
Like Super Bowls or
Oh no, I'm just talking about old shows.
what? Like Seinfeld
Yeah, do you ever see what the viewership numbers used to be on shows like that?
on their release date? I didn't think they were that high.
Okay,
What were they?
we're talking about 7 to 10 million, right? Right now, a show's in a good place. Okay, they measure it at point something. Okay,
Oh yeah,
if you
yeah,
can get a 1,
yeah,
you're awesome.
yeah. That's a million, right?
That's
Yeah,
1 million, right? And plenty of shows succeed at like point 0.8,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But if you go back to like Cheers, you're talking 17 million. You're
Oh,
talking.
okay.
This is what I'm talking about. Is these are the people's like,
Must
well,
be like Joe Rogan numbers. You know, yeah, okay.
yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
well, why we want these kind of old residuals? Like,
You're not gonna get
so
that.
would we.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great.
But that's not
So,
how this works.
Yeah, no, this is the stupidest strike I've ever seen. I've seen some pretty stupid strikes, so
I get it.
You know,
Look,
but
piano
this-
tuners deserve their pay too.
I
but-
get it, but
yeah.
you know, like I mean, this isn't like a garbage strike, man. So not everybody's gonna climb onto your side, very quickly. You know? So yeah,
Well, at least with a garbage strike, what happens, and you could argue that actively right now garbage is piling up, whether it be fucking editorial or
oh well, there's plenty of that.
creative,
Yeah,
right? Because you and I know that as of right now, there's a bunch of guys saying like, how much would it take for us to license Tic Tac Toe again, right?
right.
And fucking, it's like, press your luck hasn't been on in a while. I bet people would be dying for that.
I could go for that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the opportunity.
Yeah,
You're sitting there
exactly.
like, what's Wayne Brady doing?
What's Wayne Brady doing?
Or fucking, Drew Carey pops up out of nowhere and they're doing press your luck.
Oh no,
You know?
he's good, man. He's got his forever gig.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And who's taking over Wheel of Fortune? Isn't it Ryan Seacrest or something?
Oh, I think you told me that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
But yeah, so I know that they're sharpening up to bring this stuff out here. So you could say that garbage is piling up, and they're going to have some form of American Gladiators or Ninja Warrior.
Yeah,
popping
yeah,
up.
anything that doesn't require writers. So yeah,
But at least with a garbage strike, you sit there and you see the trash piling up.
yeah,
And the people have to focus on these. So like, well, the reality is there's a shit ton of trash here.
Mhm.
Do you support the workers or do you support the management, where you say either get back to work and get this out of here, your demands are unreasonable, but everybody has to have an opinion because rats are building up outside their
right.
house.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna carry your kids away eventually.
But with the writer's strike, this is the thing is people were like, well, all I was doing was watching reruns of The Office anyway.
Right,
so
exactly. So yeah.
there's no impetus for people to jump in there and say like,
No.
you guys need to get these writers back to back to work immediately.
Yeah.
Because trash is building up in front of my house.
Yeah.
It's not safe for my kids to play here.
Right. Yeah, the only thing that I saw that I was kind of like, oh, was they were going to push the Doom movie back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? That's okay. So, I don't need to see that right away.
It'll be out when it gets
Yeah, it's okay.
out.
You guys
Yeah.
already got a cut, right? Cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Everything else, yeah, you can just shut it down for a couple years. It'll be fine.
And I did like that movie. I did like the first one.
First one was pretty good. Now, that was a movie that actually had good pacing in it. So, you know, it was like, oh, we're not going to rush through this. Got it.
Look, I have seen, the complaint, and I think it's totally fair, is there were plenty of people that said, I had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Yes.
And they don't even try to explain
No.
it. I think the understanding was everybody that went or watched it either had a base knowledge or they were acting as interpreter to a new person.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, right. Yeah. So let's talk about the Bene Gesserit. Yeah.
All right. Pause the movie. Pause it.
Pause. Yeah.
All right. Does this make sense to
Yeah.
you? No.
Let's talk about the Great Butlerian War. Whatever it was.
The Butlerian Jihad.
The Butlerian Jihad.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I get it. But anybody that went in basically naked, they were like,
What the fuck?
I don't fuck. I'm so confused.
Am I dumb or
who is he?
Right. Who does
Why are these grasshoppers? You know why?
Right. Yeah.
You know, people leaving the movie. It's like, so there was like throat singing and like they put blood on guys. I'm like, right. You're talking about the Sardaukar.
Right. Yeah.
Like, those guys are supposed to be tough, and they're like, so what's up with the weird shields and the? It's like, oh, okay, all right, got it.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Okay, it's one of those things.
It is, but you know, when you actually do make a movie for the fan base, it's not.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you know, whether or not the only way that movie was getting like wide appeal was A, through their fan base, and B, through the cast. So, you know, and so I mean, all right, fine. We're betting on, you know, blacks and under threes. So here we go, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they made certain contritions where they're like, all right, well, we have to gender flip somebody, and it's gonna be this. I'm like, all right. I'm like,
oh yeah, that didn't even bother me in that movie. It was like, that's fine. So, you know, I mean, it doesn't need to be fucking. Who was the guy who did that? The famous German. Who is that? That old guy. He was Kron or in Conan. The fuck is that guy's name? So he was the king
in Conan.
in Conan.
Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow. Yeah, that's him. So he was the planetologist.
Yeah.
And so they completely flipped his character. It didn't even matter because he's so irrelevant. So, you know, I mean, he's good for about 10 minutes in a movie. So, you know.
Look, I also understand that there are some Dune people that will say it was crucial for him to be this. And I'm not that deep into the lore of it that it would bother me.
No, yeah.
For me, it's like, all right, well, you made the major shots, right?
Right.
And that's totally fine. And again, at least for me, who's only like tangentially involved in this, right? Like, you know, in terms of the main character, you got most of them right.
Yep.
There are some that I did not love. I didn't love their version of Jessica because she was kind of a puss. And
yeah.
That was not the...
Yeah, she's supposed to be a badass.
Yeah, she's really kind of whiny. And...
Yeah, and she's kind of, like, lost.
And to be fair, like, if I'm going to sit there and put that against, like, for as weird as the movie is, like, Francesca Annis in the 84 version is fucking amazing. Right? She actually nails what is... on paper would be like a stupid role. You know, like, how am I supposed to play this?
Right, yeah.
Like, who am I?
What do I do?
It's like, so I'm a concubine. It's like, yes. It's like, but I dress like a Russian monarch. It's
yes.
Like, yes. But I'm not a queen. It's like, no.
No.
I have superpowers? It's like, Yes and no.
Kind of. Yeah.
I'm gonna play it like this. You correct me if I'm wrong, right?
That's
And they let it
perfect.
roll,
Beautiful.
and
Yeah.
there's this weird thing where she comes across as incredibly classy, right, and never really afraid. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
In hindsight, because the whoever the fucking wimp is that they put in this, where it's just it's like oh, this is, like, I'm trying. There's like a character on Mary Tyler Moore that was gleepy like that.
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
her neighbor.
oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, her neighbor. Yep.
It was just gleepy like that. I'm like, this is not
Gleepy.
yeah.
That's a good word.
You know what it is.
I know it is.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
some gleepy like mousy little fucker. I'm like,
Right.
it's like they Lady Jessica. That's the thing. Is you play it with some like
Yeah,
reality.
she's supposed to be pretty
Yeah.
formidable. So yeah, no, I mean, so I didn't really notice that it was pretty bad. I thought they did a really good job casting Paul.
Yeah, that kid's fun.
That kid was perfect. He's just like the right age. He's like got the right like, you know that he's actually, you know, 'cause here's his dad, all right, and
Yes.
he's well cast.
He was
So,
awesome.
He was great.
He was great.
So
Yeah.
and then you know it's like, all right, Paul's gonna turn into that guy eventually. So, but he ain't there yet, and this is perfectly
Nope.
cast right now.
No,
So, yeah.
he looks like he's still like when you look at this dude. I mean, and that's just the way that he looks. Okay, that's
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
that's his
Yeah.
frame. There's this part of this. You look at that guy, and I've seen him in other things. I don't remember his name, but it's Timothy Chalamet. I think.
Yeah,
his name.
Chamberlain.
There's like, son, you haven't moved on from honeycomb to like bacon and eggs yet, and you just
You're not quite there yet.
and it's great. It looks like he's got that.
It's not small.
It's like you got that going on. It's like I respect that, and yeah, that proto thing where you actually show like Poe Dameron not being a total puss,
Right.
and actually like being a leader. I'm like, you're great,
That was
and
nice, yeah.
fucking like Momoa's great in that movie.
Dave Bautista was good in that movie.
Oh,
too.
he's awesome.
He's gonna be fun.
See,
So,
yeah,
he's gonna be fun.
that's a great like role. It's like,
And Skarsgård is perfect for the Baron.
oh, she's amazing.
And I'm glad they
Amazing in
didn't do
that.
the goofy shit with the Baron.
They
So
took such a
yeah,
it's
he's
creepy.
His fucking
I lo-
skin is
and it was creepy in the
Yeah.
last one, but they're like,
it was creepy, but kind of like Funhouse creepy.
that's the thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
when you have the dial, you're just like, don't go past 9. Like
Don't go past
it'll have like you'll see some good things, but yeah, it's like when you turn the AI past like 7, it goes to
Right,
like
yeah.
double creepy because that shit there is like. All right, there's this, and then there's like, why are you like milking a cat? It's like there's weird stuff. It's like
There's a
yeah,
lot of
it's-
weird
it's,
stuff in there.
like,
Yeah, that's right.
again, it made me uncomfortable, which works, right?
Right.
And the fucking like again that weird. It's like you guys have like just like rivers of like filth that you throw shit into. I'm like, got it. Okay, this kind of works, but again, you went to 9,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
They took it a little too far. They made him a little bit too fat, too piggish, and you know, like goofy.
and he's
you
not
know.
supposed to be that good. He's supposed to be intimidating. He's
And,
supposed.
yeah, no,
he's
Skarsgård
brilliant.
did a lot better.
I love it. Yeah, I love both versions. Don't get me wrong, but
But I
I love,
know. Yeah.
but I do love the way that turned out, and the God, the way it's framed is it's like
It's really nice.
gorgeous in its disgustingness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know who is going to play Fade Ralpha, but I'm curious. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm waiting to see.
I saw a list of people who were supposed to be coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't remember who's, but yeah, there was a couple names on there. Oh, yeah, I can't. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at it.
I'm looking forward to watching it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's like if you look at it like from a box office perspective, like we're gonna lose so much money, but just
Yeah, this is the one property you just can't do and make money. Yeah. So,
no matter how much you try, I'm like,
Yeah.
I get it.
it's just a turd, man. So,
Because yeah, in order to make it normal enough for people to accept, you would lose everything about it
you would.
that's fun and weird and
Yep.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I used to think, right? I used to think, and people have said this before me, there were people that used to say that you couldn't do an adaptation of Lord of the Rings in a way that would have been
People said that for years, and Peter
Yeah.
Jackson proved them wrong. So he just took it serious. Like, okay, so
How
this is
did he make it normie enough for audiences? Like, now you're a fan.
yeah.
Like, how did he make it acceptable to the mass
He
audiences that
so I can explain it in one thing. He cut Tom Bombadil, so that's all you had
that's
to
all
do.
it takes?
That's all you had to do. I mean, and as long as you have that fucking kind of mentality throughout the entire thing, or the guy who turns into a bear, so who is in the next three movies, which is dumb, okay? Because it's fine, but you really have to be into it in order to like that stuff. So, you know, he took a look at it and he was like, this makes sense. This is too Tolkien for me, so off it goes. And so there's no Tom Bombadil, there's no like Barrel Whites, there's no there's like all kinds of stuff that he kind of added and embellished here a little bit. There, he's like, all right, people like elves, so we're gonna have more of those. So and we're gonna have less of all the weirdness, So he's like, the ghosts are creepy, so we're gonna keep those, But yeah, it was really good. Like, there's a whole scene where, like, the mouth of Sauron is supposed to come out and basically berate them, and he filmed it and then cut it. So, because he was like, that's weird, okay? It's just an eye. We know it's fucking evil. It doesn't need to tell us that it's evil. So, you know?
people have been saying this for 3 movies
Yeah, they got
straight.
it figured out, man.
Yeah.
So, and then, yeah.
Nobody has said, like, give this, like, Sauron guy a shot. Like,
Yeah.
take him over, man. Like, he's really gonna cut taxes.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to close the border.
Well, and to me, it seems like, all right, so if there was, are there any parts of the novels that you would even consider to be heavy-handed?
Yeah, to be fair, it's been a long time since I've read them.
I mean, just that you remember. Like, would you say, like, the anti-industrialization message may have been, like, a little bit on the nose? Because it's barely, it's there
so
if
he
you want
cut
it
all
in
of
there.
that shit, too, which was really good, where Sauron escapes and becomes known as Sharky, of all things. It's like, that's dumb. So,
That's so weird.
It's so weird. It's like, yeah, Tolkien just kind of like, it's like, well, everybody know that it's Saruman. He's been walking around the place for 1,000 fucking years, So, and all of a sudden he fool. No, okay.
Didn't you say he shows up in the Shire?
Well, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Where he takes it over and turns it into, mini Mordor. Basically as revenge on Gandalf, who let him live. So, and no, that's one thing that they probably should have left in the movie was, and what's his name? Christopher Lee actually filmed that sequence where he dies in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Peter Jackson actually cut that, even though they filmed the whole thing. And actually, I've seen it. It looks really good.
Does it?
Yeah, I think they actually left it in the extended version, but
Okay.
it happens in the very beginning of of Return of the King, which is the longest of the movies. And so, if I'm not mistaken, is your dog dreaming?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what that is?
Yeah.
It's cute. I like it.
Yeah, she does a little bit of dream barking.
Oh. So, but yeah, no, I mean that's all you have to do is cut the Tom Bombadil shit, and people like the elves, so you can put them in there. You don't have to have Legolas ride a fucking sled like a skateboard or a shield like a skateboard, and
That was weird.
yeah, you don't have to do that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I guess the ladies liked it, so that's how you get more of them in there. So whatever.
It was weird, yeah, because I remember the complaints that I so some of the purists, they complain about certain things. The omission of Tom Bombadil was one of them. I
get it why
agree
people
with
would
you
say that, but I
completely.
don't agree with them. Yeah.
There was a part where I don't even remember reading this, but I know it's in there where it's like, well, they skipped the part where they get like their enchanted weapons. It's like,
That's Tom Bombadil. Yeah.
I vaguely remember that. Too.
Yeah, that's the barrel downs and stuff.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a creepy, kind of scary scene, and it probably would have been really good to film, but then Tom Bombadil's the guy who gets him out of it. So
Right.
there's no... I mean, they could have Aragorn done it, so, but, it's like, actually, the movie's already 2 hours long, so fuck it, and even then, all three of those movies are probably each about half an hour too long as is. Because there's a lot of shit in there they don't need. The whole thing with, you know, I know a lot of people like her, but the whole thing with Theoden's niece or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Aragorn. You didn't need any of that. So they could have gotten rid of all those interactions. She's not that compelling of a character until she actually, because she has a prophecy. So in the
Yeah.
prophecy, she fulfills that. And so as long as you know the prophecy, you know, okay, there she goes. Oh, she's stabbed in the knee. We got it. So, you know, but yeah, there's a couple other things in there that they just kind of threw in for funsies. Some of the battle scenes are too long, so you know.
I agree,
Yeah,
and I know that part of that is like I know people like that.
people do like that, but they took that to obscene levels in the
Absurd,
next three
yeah,
movies.
yeah.
So it's just like this stuff doesn't even. I mean, you're making this shit out of whole cloth now. You're just doing it for money, and so it's like fine, all right, whatever. I tried watching those actually when they were on TV when I was in Michigan late at night. And I think I got about 20 minutes into the third one. And I was just like, nope. It's just nothing in this movie. I don't like any of it. So,
Well, and to that end, I would say like if what you want to do is just make like battles, like then discard the pretense.
yeah.
Just say that this is what we're going to do, right?
Yeah.
It's like we want to focus on it. Like we actually think this battle of five armies is dope, right? So y'all know the story. We're gonna tell the story of the war. I mean, if they wanted to go in there and like, let's say that they were taking a different like creative bend on it, and they said what we want to do is we actually want to follow like five characters, from this battle from their perspectives, right?
Yeah, I think you could do it with three. So,
Well, shoot. Okay,
no, I mean,
that's
they
fine.
got like what, 11 dwarves, and so you don't know any of them. So
No,
at the end of the
got-
movie,
yeah.
there's
You
like,
know one.
well, there's the old one, the bald one, and the king one. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, and like even the love story that was completely
Who
contrived.
the fuck cares?
Nobody
It's
cares.
just, it's not. It's not.
So yeah, and it was just like, no, come on, man. And then of course they don't kill him, so it was like, oops. So yeah, it was just bad, But that was like, so the original ones were filmed way back in 2000.
That seems
so-
nuts to me.
I know it seems crazy that those movies are coming up on 25 years now, man. But I mean, they took like 2 years to make them. So yeah, they probably started filming about 25 years ago. So there you go. And it was a different era in terms of movies. You don't have any comic relief except for a little bit of Gimli here and there.
I know. Well, the Merry and Pippin have their
they have their moments.
dumbassery moments, and you know what? I get it.
Yeah.
Because that was another complaint. People were like, "Well, they weren't like total klutzes and stuff."
That made them better.
I get it. Like,
yeah.
well, because the problem here is that you have four essentially non-distinguished characters at this point.
Right. Well, except for one where it's yellow and the other where it's blue. So it's like, come on. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean it's non-distinguishable, except for like because you can make the argument that like the hero of the movie is Samwise and
you can.
and this is the thing, like I can say how effective these movies are because yes, when it gets down to the end of those movies and I've taken that journey and they have that scene where you have these four, things that I generally find contemptible in other movies. But, when he says, like, no, you guys bow to no one, I'm like, fucking, I'm wiping tears away.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
well, this really worked. Okay. Like, you want the proof. It's like the fact that I'm going for Kleenex right now as a grown-ass man. And it's like, we've been through so much. And it doesn't get any better at the end where it's just, where he's like, there's just some wounds that don't heal, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like, but Samwise, you got a family now. You're a lunkhead, dude. You're a wrench turner. That's your thing, It's like my uncle said, like, well, you know what this adventure needs? It needs like a poet. That's you.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna take this poet's mentality and take everything seriously. And you're Samwise, so like when you're telling your bar stories, it's gonna be like, well, I bashed him good, and then
give him a bashing.
he did. He's like the Cotton Hill of that. He's a cute, pretty man. It's just like That's his attitude. I'm like, wow, that's different characters. Wow, that's good. That's good. And the movie didn't stop to say, like, have you seen how much pollution is building up on these trees?
Oh my God, yes, exactly. Show the desolation of Mordor. So,
what price do we pay?
please no, man. I can't do it, man.
Because if they remake those movies, that's the shit they're gonna lean into.
That's exactly what they're gonna lean into. They've been, well, you know, I don't know. Hopefully this whole thing is shelving all kinds of bad projects that just need to be rethunk, so, and restaffed. So, you know, and just yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, we talked a lot about movies today, but I'm seeing the same thing in journalism. So
they're one and the same.
they kind of are, and so I can get the exact same stink off an article, so you know, pretty quick nowadays. And so I actually did plug back in a little bit into my app to try and see, like, okay, so what's it trying to barf at me now? So if you go into it with clean, you know, screen wipe and stuff, it's bad. It's just, it's like, you know, it seems to assume my demographic based upon my phone and, you know, how old I am and stuff like that. You know, all information off my Google account. It takes about 5 minutes before it starts barfing out stuff that's just, it's just bad. And it's like, come on, guys, I'm not going to read this. So, you know, why is MSNBC at the top line on all of my shit? Get that fucking off here. So I can't do it. So why is every third story written by Jake Tapper at fucking CNN? It's like, he doesn't write. So
yeah, even when he's writing, nobody would call it writing.
No, I don't think so, man. And so yeah, it's just like, no, man. And NPR is just every time I clean my phone off, it sneaks back in there. So, you know, and
under this guise of being like professional or of being like somehow,
it's like one of the worst. So
oh yeah,
it is insufferable. So, you know, and
it's like, if just declare yourself basically Washington Post, because that's all you are.
Well, and that's the thing is, I mean, the Washington Post is at least straight up about that shit. So, I mean, now you can read news articles from the Washington Post. They're fine. Okay, they'll have a little bent to them and stuff. You need to stay the fuck away. I mean, as far as fucking possible from anything on the op-ed. So on that one, it's just it's I mean, hive mind is like giving hive minds justice. So
no, this is the problem I have. This is the thing is, every newspaper worth its salt, every news outlet worth its salt, okay, needs, if you have an op-ed area, you need one or two guys who hates the other guys, right? Because
yeah.
for every like 10 articles that come out, 10 op-eds that come out, you need to have that one curmudgeonly guy or whatever who writes out like, you guys are gay, right? And I don't mean that in a pejorative, right? But just something where it comes out, it's like, something where it's like, you guys are taking this too far, right? And we're to blame, and you go ahead and get all the hate letters. They used to have great guys like that in the Denver Post and stuff. They used to have great guys like that would like catch that shit, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, they used to do shit like that in magazines like Newsweek and Time and stuff. Where it's like, oh, it's the conservative guy this week, and he's going to bash the other guy who will be back next week, you know? So, and it's fine. But that was back in the days where, you know, I don't know. It's just not socially acceptable to get your news in weekly doses, man. You know? Dude, you got to be up to speed on everything all the time, man. It's just like, no, actually I don't. So, but then, yeah, when you do get caught into it, you start realizing that. So, like, I do several, I've got a few guys on Substack now. They publish once a week. It's great. Okay. But you're missing whole cycles of the news in there because they publish on what's going on that day. So, you know, and sometimes they catch you up a little bit on what happened the previous couple days. But, you know, like, the whole thing, you know, I still listen to Taibbi's thing with Walter Kern every week. And, I mean, Walter's starting to grow on me a little bit, even though he is the most mealy-mouthed. So, like, slow-speaking, all the ums and ahs and, you know, everything. Yeah. But he's actually more articulate than Matt is in many respects. Matt's a better writer. So, but, Yeah, like they had their whole thing cut before any of the Hunter Biden shit dropped, and so now it's like, okay, well, I'm not getting your guys' take on this, so there we go, you know.
Well, what would you
Uh,
do? I mean,
I don't know.
this is the weird thing about it is, like, if I'm going to sit there and look at the state of journalism, we've discussed this at length, right?
Yeah.
And we'll stop soon. The thing about this that's tough is, well, you can't go back, but you take a look at the way that this is, basically, it's electronic, okay?
Mhm.
It's instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
And so you never, when it comes to news, okay, again, I don't want to get into that, like, well, when I was younger, we had it this way. It's like, no, because it's fucked in its own right.
It was
Because
just different. So
if I'm going to sit there and turn around and say, like, well, I noticed that ABC News never said anything negative about Dow Chemical, or anything like that. It's like,
you forget that all of them got the whole weapons of mass destruction thing wrong. So that was the old model at work, man. You're like, what are they gonna say about it? I don't know. Well, they're the ones who break the lead usually. So
I don't remember who said it, but they said a phrase that rang a bell. I'm like, oh yeah, somebody said ripping babies out of incubators.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was just like, where do I know that from? I'm like,
that was,
I
that was a
remember.
long time ago.
Oh, yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, that's even before WMD. Yeah,
Absolutely. I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
that did happen.
But I mean, when you take a look at like this modern news, it's like, all right, you've been just like sitting there. It's like you've been slamming. Like you go out there, you read a piece. A lot of people, it's like, do you read news or do you catch the headline? You just catch the headline. So you get a whole bunch of people. It's like they don't eat meals, right?
Yeah, you're right.
24 hours a day, it's just one Pringle after another, and then it's like, and then there's an Oreo in there, and so like something big happens, right?
Some jelly beans.
Yeah, you've been just eating like junk food all day, right? And it becomes really hard for you at that point when you've gotten essentially like when you've gotten that sort of like fast food, essentially junk food, like exaggerated flavor tolerance, right? You have no idea when there's actually something meaty that comes out.
Yeah.
And like I'm telling you, like we've joked about this, like this story as is right now, unsubstantiated, would have sunk this guy's career.
Oh yeah.
This will disappear in a day.
Yeah, it's part of it is due to the fire hose effect too, man. Just so much of it comes, like I mean, last week was a classic example of that. We had so much shit going on.
Insanity.
When then, like 2 weeks ago, there was jack shit going on, and then all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam. Here's all this stuff, like right in a row. But it still feels like it was like 2 weeks ago if you weren't paying attention to it. So yeah,
Well, yeah, because that was the effect there is, let's say that you do have a slow news week,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing is, you're still getting your Oreos, right?
you're still eating Oreos. That's correct.
And the
Yep.
way that the way it's presented is everything is the biggest deal ever.
Always.
So-
and I gotta have a take on it right away. So yeah.
This DOJ Hunter Biden crap is, I'm telling you, this would be like
it's gonna get them.
this would be like Woodward and Bernstein level big.
Yeah,
but
but like so there are some there's some like more lefty. I'm not like communist lefty, but
Close enough.
no, not those kinds. So I'm just talking like mainstream lefty guys who are like, hey, so we're gonna look into this, right? So yeah. So I think that yeah.
Like even cops on the take every now and then have to go out there and do actual police
You're
work.
like, we're doing business for who? Yeah, exactly. So
Like we gotta at least show up, man.
yeah. Now the thing that I don't like is I don't like seeing all these guys making this connection between that and the war. So these are two different things. So these are two completely separate things. So
To my knowledge, yes. If something came out, I don't know.
hey man, as far as I know, like, I mean, even then, because I've seen a couple people, even Walter was making this point. It's like, well, that was a hell of an investment. You got like, $800,000 into this kid, and you get $100 billion in aid. I was like, I don't think that's a reach, bro. So I mean, there's bigger things going on there that have nothing to do with fucking Hunter Biden. What it will do is it will break Joe Biden's presidency. So if he continues to stand by his son, I saw him break ranks the other day and actually acknowledge
He acknowledged his grandchild.
So that's the right thing to do. I think you're a little late to the party there.
Oh my God, late to the
very,
party.
very, very late to the party there, but still, it's the right thing to do. All right, but if I think with all the shit that's going on, and even like the two business, because I actually did some reading up on this finally, um, with the two business partners, if they figure who the big guy is, so it'll be easy to break into his mindset by just going after his son. Every Republican on the face of the planet will fucking do it. So, I mean, it's like you can autofill that move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but will it make a difference to people? There's it's just willing to overlook. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
It's
It
too.
completely depends on who the Republican. If Donald Trump is actually the guy who comes out of the primary, no, it won't matter. So because there's a lot of people, myself included, who will not vote for that guy ever. So
I'll vote for him over Joe Biden.
well, I'll vote for neither. So
Well, that's
yeah,
fine too.
yeah, yeah. No, Joe Biden, he's lost my vote. He lost my vote like 6 months ago. Let alone with all this shit with his granddaughter. So
They just said the other day, it's
he's
like
just too old.
easiest thing that you had to do was
Yeah.
say like, we have another Biden in the family. It's great.
Yeah, that was easy. That was easy. Yeah. So, but
It's like, what do you think
Crickets.
this is? Do you think this is like 1953, where you have to like sweep this under the rug?
Right?
and
Yeah.
you're like,
Exactly. Oh my
oh, you
God.
have to,
Yeah.
we're gonna keep funneling money to you, but you must never break our secret.
Right.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So, because you might be a hooker.
That's
So,
like-
I am.
Like, you don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, Bidens do not have families
Yeah.
out
No.
of
Fuck
wedlock.
that. Those guys need
you
to
know,
go. So
Like, we
but-
have no bastard children in our family. Yeah, but
I think there's demonstrable evidence that his son is. See, that's the thing is like, what part of the law are you actually breaking? So, and what do you need immunity from? So, and now all of a sudden you try to sneak in blanket immunity, and that very, deliberate judge, is like, no, I'm gonna read it. So, kind of thing. Just kind of blew that out in the open, and so now, like I said, there's some lefty people who are like, guys, so we fucking can't name the station after Capone.
dude,
Yeah.
I know. And look, the bottom line here is it's like I've joked about when in the summer when the girls start to stink, it's hot,
It is hot,
right?
yeah.
Because guys, we're sweaty all the time,
Yeah.
right? But when the girls start to swink, it gets hot, and when Anna Kasparian breaks ranks with the left, you guys have gone too far.
Yeah. So I watched her shit too, man. I don't know how much she was breaking ranks or if she just got excommunicated. I think she got excommunicated.
Well, she did.
And then fucking, said, well, fine, we'll do it. We'll do
no,
it. Yeah.
she-
We'll do it live.
That was the thing. She got told. She said, like, they got told, you're a birthing person. And she's like,
What guy?
I am.
Yeah.
It's like, don't you dare say that about me. And said, yeah. Then the church heads got together and said,
the inner sanctum.
Lordy.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Yeah,
I
exactly.
actually
that.
saw Ben Shapiro defend her the other day, and I was like, "That's pretty impressive, man."
Well, this both sides. Look, don't get me wrong here, man. This is the same thing. Is it works? It works on the other end. There were dudes, the people on the left. They took in Arnold Schwarzenegger when he said, "Screw your freedom." It's like go get the shot, right? So yeah, people on the left were like, "Oh, you come at the same thing like Ben Shapiro." It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like,
You can come on over.
yo, man, did you actually climb the fence and actually escape the cult?
Do you want a sandwich? Here's a blanket. Yeah. You get the space blanket.
And of course, the Anna Kasparian says you live, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly,
like this. You look at this woman, it's like I don't think there's any woman on this planet that would like to have sex with you less, right? It's just like you disgust me. But yeah, I totally understand. You see some break in rank, you're like, come on over here.
Yeah.
The courtship of Tulsi Gabbard would be the prime example of this.
Maybe.
Well, no, she absolutely is.
Yeah.
She's welcomed by the right.
She is. Yeah, she is. Yeah.
But I got 83% of her beliefs would be on the left.
Probably. Yeah, I think that's kind of like, but that's, I think, all right, so that's more like the right guys now that are kind of like, giving props to RFK Jr.
Yes.
They're not doing that because they like RFK Jr. So they're doing that because it hurts the Democratic nomination.
Exactly.
And so that's different than actually like, here's your blanket and your sandwich. You know, that's like, oh, did you get the plans for the basement? We'll take those. You know, it's like, you got a key card? Give me that key card. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, but they're not really being welcomed in there. So,
And to RFK's credit, and this was funny. Like, I mentioned that he was going to be a shakeup, and you were like, yeah, whatever.
oh no, I think he will. So,
Well, when I mentioned that, you're like, yeah, whatever.
I mean, the question is, will he actually do anything to the Democratic nomination process? I don't think so.
No, because he's hitting big with guys on the right.
Yeah, so, and that's going to hurt him with the people that need to vote for him to actually get him somewhere. So so that's a really smart move if Donald Trump like turns around and says, "Hey, we're going to run on the same ticket."
That would be fucking wild.
I don't think I think Donald Trump would lose a lot of support over that one, and I don't think very much would actually come over with RFK. So what it will do is it will absolutely fucking destroy Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, and et al. So
Yeah, and whatever his name is, fucking
Swami or whatever.
Yeah.
That guy's a weirdo, man. I've listened to him speak a couple times. He's not the kind of guy that I'd let her hang around my daughter too long.
No, he doesn't.
It's like, so you're gonna make Andrew Tate? Oh, which one of your cabinet positions, man?
That guy is just, it's like when you that's a Reddit thing where it's like I told ChatGPT to watch 600 hours of Republican speeches and make a candidate, and that's all right. There you go. All right,
I can't top that. So. All right, I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
I'm hitting the button.
All right.